Are you too busy? Too stressed out? Unhealthy? Then this is the place for you. Welcome to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals, where we help you create wellness and balance with a holistic approach that will work for you, even with the busiest of schedules, so you can live the life you want. And now, here's your host, Diane Randall.
Hello and welcome. I'm Diane Randall, your host. Thank you so much for joining. And if you're new to the show, welcome. It's so exciting to have you here listening. Today's episode is about inspiring a new definition of workplace loyalty. I'm so excited to talk to my guest today about how to take out the old definition of workplace loyalty and bring in the new. My guest today is Lee Caraher. She is the CEO of Forte PR and digital marketing. She's an acclaimed communication strategist, and she's known for her practice solutions to big problems. Her company works with some of the top consumer and technology brands in the country. She is the author of the book, The Boomerang Principle, Inspire Lifetime Loyalty from Your Employees. And in her book, she shows companies and leaders how they can realize tremendous advantages by letting go of their old definition of workplace loyalty and replacing it with a mindset that inspires employees to be loyal for their lifetimes, whether they are employed by the company or not. Based on her experience with employees at her company, Lee has learned that a company that's easy to return to is a company that's difficult to leave. Oh my God, Lee, welcome.
Diane, thank you so much for having me. What an honor to be with you.
I am so excited to have you here because I love that a company that's easy to return to is a company that's difficult to leave. So we'll get to that in a minute. I want to first understand, and this is just to build a framework around our conversation. What is your definition of workplace loyalty?
It's probably easier to talk about what it isn't.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
workplace loyalty, the old definition where we get into trouble today is when an employee leaves a company and the company and its managers say that person is now dead to me because they did not stay. And they're disappointed that someone left. And the old definition of loyalty is you go in, you have an expectation of staying for a long time, that the company will take care of you, will have a pension, whatever it is, right?
Right.
And you do your hard work and the company rewards. That doesn't happen as much anymore today, post 2008, or even post 1992, but really post 2008 as it did before. But the sentiment, particularly from older employees, Gen X and boomers and silent generations, they get disappointed when people leave earlier than they want them to. And they have this mindset, they're dead to me. Or they think that they're going, that why should I put any time into these millennials because they're going to job hop. And what I want people to understand is that, an employee can be loyal to your company for their whole lives and actually be more valuable to you outside of the company than they are inside of the company over time. And if we take the long view, we create more sustainable companies that have much more profit and have much easier through lines for their businesses. And I'm really trying to help people understand that and move to what's realistic and possible in redefining what we expect from each other in the future.
Wow, that's so interesting. Like you said, post 2008, when companies, if they need to show a profit, people go. Mm-hmm. So it's that insecurity that people have. So how do you balance that with being loyal today?
We learned in 2008 when the economy just imploded, sort of the trend line, particularly around publicly traded companies who started laying people off in the late 80s, early 90s for shareholder value, not for performance. We learned that this old concept of you go in, you work hard, you get rewarded isn't constant. Right. And so many times we're out of control. We don't have control of our companies. And more companies get acquired today, more companies go out, all these kinds of things. So individuals figured out that they needed to take care of themselves. And so many boomers, 8 million boomers lost their jobs in 2008. At the same time as they were losing so much of their savings, right? People are still digging out from that situation. And the older you are, the more precarious it is. And their children, who are now today's working millennials, saw it, lived with it, right? And everybody today knows they have to take care of themselves, right? They need to make sure they're crafting their own career. They need to make sure that they've been told, don't stay too long in a job. You're going to look stale. Make sure you're learning new things. Make sure you're current. When a company embraces that reality, right, that their top 25% of employees can go anywhere they want, always, their top talent, and keeping their top talent engaged is about helping them realize their own personal goals within the construct of meeting the company's goals and not vice versa. That is when it's so much more powerful. And you can create the kind of ties that people have with their educational institutions, their high schools or their colleges, which people feel very loyal to. You can create the same kind of sentiment if you shift your mindset to that possibility. And that's where the real power is.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm even reflecting on an experience I had in my past where I decided to leave a company, and they, how they talk you into staying, and then you decide to go anyway, and then it becomes a negative experience. Mm-hmm. So, for example, how can you repair workplace relationships that have been broken by negative exit practices and behaviors when you want to leave, and it's not anything personal typically,
Exactly, right. And really, companies are disappointed when people leave when they don't want them to, but they're really quick to get rid of people when they don't want them anymore. Right?
Get rid of them and lay them off. Really.
Yeah, exactly, right. And today, particularly the top performers, they have much more say in their careers than they ever did before, with a gig economy. I mean, there's so many more options. So I think there's two things. One, the employee, it's up to the employee to be rehire-able, right? Because you can have a company that has a bad moment in time or has a bad actor or, and they change leadership and they want you back. But then because of the way you left, you're not eligible to return because you do leave a footprint no matter where you are, right? So first of all, it's up to the employee to leave well so that it's possible to return. And more than 50% believe that they might return to a company they've worked at. This is already a sentimental trend going on. Of course, 50% of companies have a policy against rehiring, but that is going to change. This is going to change because it used to be 75%. Now it's 50%.
Wow,
it's going to go down.
I never knew that. I never knew that companies had a policy on not rehiring. Wow.
It's either written or it's in the air.
What is that about?
That's about this broken loyalty thing.
Okay.
That is about this thing like, well, we already gave that, there's plenty of fish in the sea and we're going to go, well, actually, the top 25% of workers, there aren't that many, that's a lot of people, but we need a lot of top 25%ers. Okay. We're all going after those same top 25%ers. And there's a finite number of them always, right? So it's up to the employee to leave well. And that means a few things. One is it shouldn't be a total surprise that another opportunity is interesting to an employee, right? Number one. Number two, that you leave well, meaning the day before you give your notice that you've tied everything up in a bow. Because if they walk you out, which they might do, that you don't leave, a disaster behind in undone work. So you create the memo that is, okay, you walked me out. Here's everything I have in play right now. Here's my recommendation. Here are the due dates, and just lay out the work as if you had left on a medical leave and had to make things happen before you give your notice so that you're, even if they walk you out the door, you have left a roadmap to get your work done. Right. Mm-hmm. And then 3 is to say thank you. Right. People like to be thanked for you hired me. Thank you. I've learned so much here. I've learned so much. I'm going to take so much into my career here, and that thank you means a lot. Right.
Yeah, it does.
It does. And not just say thank you to the person you're leaving, but say thank you to the people around you. And then number 4 is out in the world, make sure you're linked in with people. And then after you've been gone for a while, reach back in to the company and those 5, 6, 12 people that you were important to and were important to you, maintain those relationships because those relationships transcend the company. Right. But can also be important to the company. And then number 5 is when you see an opportunity once you've left the company, when you see an opportunity that the company could benefit from, bring it to them. So it could look like, I just met Sally and I know you're looking for an intern and I think Sally would be a great option. She would be a great fit for you. I'm just going to send you there. Right.
Okay.
Or you see a business, I just met Joe. Joe's looking for this solution. You need to talk to Joe because I think you can make a sale here. Being out there in the world, being an advocate for those companies that you've worked for, that's up to you, right? The employee. Because the company can change. Leadership changes all the time. People change all the time. And I believe over time, in the near future, this concept of being dead to people is going to go away because we're moving so fast that we're going to want people to return because they come up to speed faster. It's a positive thing for the company. And when people return to a company, they're often much more valuable in the second time around than they were the first time around. So that is how you do it from a personal perspective. And then from a company perspective, once you realize this old construct does not work anymore, you need to create ways for people to stay connected with you. So much like a college or a high school does, more colleges than high school, creating a corporate alumni program is the single most important thing that a company of any size can do today to keep people connected to you once they're gone from you.
I love that. So let's say in reality that this company I'm about to leave and it's almost like we're both saying goodbye.
Yeah.
So what happens in a scenario where you're not really leaving well? How do you patch things up?
Well, I think that's really important, right? Because we're not always at our best, particularly if we feel like it's not a good fit or it's just not working or I was doing really well, but I stalled out and, they have an up and out mentality or whatever it is. One is to go achieve somewhere else, right?
Okay.
You got to achieve somewhere else. So find the other position, do good things in the world, whatever it is, right? 2, if you felt like you left poorly, like in a fit of rage, right?
Or something like that.
Which would make you un-boomerang-able. You would not be boomerang eligible if you left in a fit of rage or this is what we see all the time, practical jokes on the way out the door.
Okay.
Unhooking the dishwasher. All these things that, you read about. Go say you're sorry. I'm really embarrassed by how I left, after some time, right? But I'm very embarrassed by how I left. I really, so disappointing. I'm disappointed in myself. I hope that we can have a relationship now that's more positive now, right? And is there a way I can help you? Extending the olive branch, finding a way to, to create goodwill. And often when someone leaves poorly, they've left people poorly, right? Yeah. They haven't just left. So maybe a boss feels, someone's leaving and this happens a lot, right? Mm-hmm. That it reflects poorly on me that you're leaving. Well, that person's pretty selfish, but, and is really thinking about themselves, not the team. But if you've left poorly or you got walked out the door because your boss was, dumb, you left people hanging, right?
Right. So
repairing those relationships too, which is why it's so important to prepare for that leaving, even if it's, here's everything I'm working on. Here's all the due dates. Here's how I'd get it done. Because even if it's bad, if you've done that work, you're halfway to maintaining the relationships you have in the group. And the group is what, letting other people down is what can hurt you the most in your career, right? From a company side, every time someone leaves you, they can help you or hurt you. And why aren't you doing things to have them help you, even if they leave in a huff?
Right. Wow. That is so interesting. I love what you said, that you have learned that a company that's easy to return to is a company that's difficult to leave. That's a very powerful statement.
Mm-hmm.
Very,
and I learned
powerful.
This is a practice I put into place in my own companies. This one, Double Forte, which I started 15 years ago, tomorrow, I guess. Wow.
Happy anniversary.
Sort of exciting. But I learned it in the previous work that I've done. And it really comes down to a couple of things. In the end, we want our people to be happy, right?
Yeah.
A happy workplace is an efficient workplace. An efficient workplace is a profitable workplace. And you have to be performing. A business has to have a business, right? You just don't have happy people standing around doing nothing. But when you can create that and someone wants to leave, one, I never counter, ever. Ever. Never counter, because someone who's gone to the extreme of getting another job, their mind is elsewhere. And if they're using the other job offer to get what they want from you, that is a broken relationship. So I never counter offer.
Yeah, I've seen that in scenarios where, for example, I've been in consulting my whole life. So you have a project that's been ongoing, and then a person decides that for whatever reason that they're going to move on and the project's not done. I've seen it in that kind of scenario.
Right. But, I've never seen a good counteroffer.
Okay.
Ever. Because eventually the person's going to leave, right? And if they have you over the barrel and you can live, would you stay for an extra month for this extra money to get me through this thing? Get rid of that person as soon as you can, because they're not going to stick, right? They're spending their energy elsewhere. You need people who are spending their energy, with you. So I never counteroffer, but I always say, I hope you come back.
Oh, okay.
Always.
Okay.
And always, even if it's a bad situation, I hope you can come back. I hope you come back. And that doesn't mean that they automatically can come back, but I hope that there's a moment in our future where it makes sense for this company and for you to be reunited. Wow.
I love that.
That leaves so many doors open.
It does.
In today's business, we should be doing everything as leaders. We need to do everything we can to keep as many doors open as possible, because the world is changing so fast that we cannot imagine what is going to be in 3 years. We really can't. I mean, I started my company, PR firm, 15 years ago, before Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, all this stuff, before, podcasting. And now all of our work is that, right? So if I had shut the door on people who were bringing me, Lee, you really need to get it with the times. You really need to, and it was hard to do, I would be out of business, frankly.
Okay.
Right. And then the sentiment, I just want you to be happy. And I hope in the future that we find a way for the company and for you to be reunited. It's so powerful. It's powerful for the company because it's a message that everybody in the company knows. And it's powerful for the person to say, imagine that they can go forward and then actually be valuable again. And leaving that window open is just about opportunity for everybody. And it's up to you as the company is the lead in that situation, right? Because in the end, it's up to you if you want to hire someone or not. And in fact, the first week of every person's job, so my company's relatively small. We're a small company, it's 35 people. Mm-hmm. I don't hire very many people because I maybe hire a direct report once every 2 or 4 years, somewhere in there. But I meet with everybody. Okay. And that first meeting, once they're hired, I say, you know what? You're going to leave here. I know you're going to leave here. You don't have to stay here. I'm so glad you're here, but I know you can leave. And I would love for it that you were here your whole career, but it's not my expectation. And what's so important to me is that you're happy. And that what's so important to me is that Double Forte is a point of pride. Being employed by Double Forte is a point of pride for you on your resume. And so when it's on your resume, you never drop it off. Wow. Because that would mean that Double Forte had succeeded in being an important part of people's lives. And so I say that right up front. I just take the whole specter of I expect you to stay here forever off the table. I started doing that. Well, I've done that for a long time, but it's particularly powerful with millennials who don't expect to be in places very long, who are looking to sort of move and get new skills and be in new experiences, be new places because their parents have told them to do this, right? Don't get caught flat-footed like I did in 2008. So that they know that, if you come to a moment that you feel like you're unhappy or you're not doing what you want to do, that's on you for not telling us, because I want you to be happy here. And if you can't be happy here, I will help you be happy somewhere else.
What about the older workforce?
Same is true.
Same true. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's different for them to hear it, right?
Right.
And particularly the older people get, the less opportunity there is, particularly in Silicon Valley. But I want you to be happy. You have to be working. You have to be producing, right?
Right.
Which also means you have to be relevant, which means you have to do, as people, the older generation today. So I would say people, 40 on, mm-hmm. Have to constantly worry about their own relevance, Are they current? Are they relevant? Because there's a lot of young people available who are really current and can do things a lot faster and are a lot cheaper, right? But I say it to everybody. Everybody gets the same message. You're going to leave here. I want you to stay. That requires you working at a certain level, right? You can only have this if you have a business. And when you leave here, I hope we get reunited in the future.
Wow. I love that, because you've just given that person the freedom to think about freely if they really want to be there, and also the value that they can accomplish mm-hmm. there. So that is really, really awesome.
In the end, I think the most loyal thing an employee can do is leave when they're not inspired by the opportunity that's in front of them at a company.
Oh, I definitely agree with that, because once and that's when you've stayed too long, if you're not inspired on any level anymore.
Yeah.
That is a sign.
And if you haven't brought it forward, like, I wish I could do that. Well, you never told me you wanted to do, I don't know, handstands. We would have found a way for you to do handstands if you had told me. The responsibility on the employee is heavy. They have to craft their own career, right? And that requires communication skills.
and also feeling, and you've just said that you're open, but other bosses, can I really share with this boss without retribution?
Yeah. Which is hard, right? I get it.
Right.
It's not true everywhere, but the culture starts from the top.
Yeah.
And the culture defines opportunity today. Just look what's happening at Uber. Just look what's happening at these they're just very toxic cultures. Good people do not stay for toxic cultures. So while it is true that companies might be doing really well on the bottom, it might be looking like they're doing well. They're growing. They have a profit. They don't have as much growth or as much profit as they could have if they had an inspired workforce.
I love that. That is so true. I mean, as I've been in my career for many, many, many years, I definitely see the benefit of that. And it's so exciting that there is a new definition of workplace loyalty out there, and you're inspiring people to follow that definition. That is so awesome.
I hope so. I'm on a mission. We all, 99% of us have to work. 99% of us don't have to have it suck. So
right.
Anything I can do to bring this concept forward, I'm going to do, because too often I think we are stuck in the past and we spend way too much time agitating instead of solving, and way too much time sort of not figuring out that the world has changed. And it's a different place, right? It's a different place. And I'll tell you, I bring my stories in my books from my almost failures. These are things that I've learned very, very hard way. And I'm on a mission to make sure everyone else doesn't have to live through the hard things that I did.
Well, that is so awesome and inspiring, by the way.
I hope so. Well, That's a big word, but
it's a big word.
Can, get over themselves.
Exactly. Well, Lee, it's been exciting to have you here talking about workplace loyalty, and the link to Lee's book and her website will be in the show notes for this episode. So if you guys have more questions for Lee, please look in the show notes. And I am just so happy that you were here talking to us today, Lee.
Diane, thank you so much. I so appreciate your questions and your willingness to let me go on. I love, this is a very interesting subject, actually, to hear, because I've been around a long time and I've been in and out of corporations for about 30 years. So this is exciting news to hear that there is a new definition of workplace loyalty. I've seen it. I've seen this definition, but not as much. So to see that things are evolving from the traditional model of workplace, it's just so exciting. It really, really is. I'm glad you think so. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you. And I want to thank everyone that's listening. And I hope you take something of value from this conversation. And let me know what you think about this episode. Leave a comment on Balanced Living for Busy Professionals website, or leave a voicemail right here on the website. I want to hear from you. Your feedback helps us to bring the best topics and information that you want to hear. Information that can support you in your life.
Thank you for listening to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals. This podcast is sponsored by DianeRandallConsults.com. If you like this show, the best way to support it is by leaving 5-star feedback on iTunes. And please feel free to email your questions, comments, and suggestions to feedback@DianeRandallConsults.com. Until next week, namaste.